Welcome to the show. We are live, unless you're not watching the live version. Welcome to the program. This is Holding Space for Love to Be Seen. We're doing it again, episode number 30. This is the second broadcast for today. And I'm just thrilled to be here with you. It is 6 p.m. my time. Don't know what it is for you, but welcome to the show. If this is your very first time, my name's Tiger. I'm going to play the part of host on this journey. And we're holding space for love to be seen. And maybe you have no clue what that means. Well, if you hang out for an hour, you might get a better idea. But to summarize, we come together to celebrate presence. Oh, should probably clarify the present moment. And as we dive into the present moment, we discover presence. Yay. This is an invitation to look beyond the chaos of the mind, the life we imagine to be happening, who we think we are, who we think other people are. We connect with a deeper truth, a deeper reality beyond all the noise. And so you're invited to hang out with us. There's a bit of a format, which is the introduction. It's almost over. Then we're going to do 2 minutes of stillness, which is to just be here. I get to not say anything and allow myself to just drop into this space, totally relax, totally just be. And I invite you to do the same, especially if you're going to hang out for an hour. And then from that stillness, I'm going to share some insight and wisdom on today's topic, which is real healing is to heal perception. This will be fun. I'll run my mouth for about 30, 40 minutes. And then after I'm done doing that, we can make some space for any questions that might be there for those listening live or watching. And I can share my reflections on those questions, sharing what I see, while extending you a freedom to see whatever you see. And then after that, there's a very short and sweet guided meditation that just invites us to assimilate all this yummy insight and wisdom. And then you get to continue on in your day or your evening. I think I'm done with the introduction. Oh, also, I should probably mention, especially if this is your first time, I like to go slow. So there's lots of pauses. I like to take my time, not rush. So there'll be lots of pauses. I invite you to enjoy those pauses. Although I guess if you're just scrolling around the World Wide Web, do we still say that? Looking for a distraction. I'm not sure if this will be a good spot. But nonetheless, you're invited. Let's do the 2 minutes of stillness and allow ourselves to drop in to this space. There's something so incredibly beautiful about the permission to just be still. I hope you discover this permission within yourself if you haven't. So often as human beings, we are under the hypnosis that we must constantly be doing something. Like, for example, doing a show, a live show. It's like you can't just do nothing. You can't just not talk for 2 minutes. You can actually. In the stillness, in allowing myself to just be, there's this peace that emerges. Like everything's just okay. We're not gathered here in order to get somewhere. I'm not doing this show in order to reach a particular future. It brings me back to the sincerity of just being human. Being human. Come back to this presence. The more I recognize how beautiful it is to just be. It's kind of like being with another human being without having to say anything, just sharing space together. It's really nice. All right. Are we ready to dig in to this topic? Real healing is to heal perception. And if you're reading the pre-broadcast reflections, you'll notice that I didn't write one before this show today. I did mention that I would occasionally write those. And I've been pretty darn consistent writing them every time. And I just decided, nah, I'm not going to do it right now. Once again, we have this opportunity to look at the assumptions, look at the conditioning about how we look at something called healing. And what we will discover in a very playful way is that we have a lot of assumptions about what healing is. That's actually quite insane. And in many cases, looks in the complete opposite direction of where we might actually touch a very deep and real healing. Healing in what context? I guess that's a good place to start. Well, in order to clarify this, what I'm speaking to about healing, we can look at the traditional ways we perceive such a thing. Most notably is that we think healing is something that is not yet done. Gosh, this is so profound for me. I wonder if it is for you. But effectively, we perceive healing as something that happens in the future. And naturally, this sets us out on a quest to get to what we perceive to be healing in such a way, as an example, if someone has the flu, we could perceive healing as I'll be healed when I don't have the flu. And so I'm not healed yet, but yet when the flu leaves, then I will be healed. And practically speaking, I get that. However, so often in such a perception, it also comes with this agitation in seeing yourself as not yet healed, seeing yourself as distant from wholeness, right? Like wholeness is just around the corner. If only this, if only that, then I could be whole, then I could be healed. And I think the word wholeness ties in nicely here because in many ways, we could say healing is a return to wholeness. Let's look at that for a second. Healing, a return to wholeness. Yeah, this is a fun direction to go. Because isn't that what we crave when something appears to be unhealed? Is we crave what we consider to be an experience of wholeness? Like, oh, finally, I can relax. Finally, everything's okay. Finally, there's nothing in the way. And then in the human experience, it could seem like there are so many things in the way for us to experience wholeness, which translates into saying there's lots of things unhealed that prevents us from experiencing wholeness. We can project this onto ourselves, onto other people, and onto the world. We can say the world is unhealed, and if only the world was healed, then I could experience wholeness. I invite you to recognize how that might be playing out in your life. What is it about yourself? What is it about other people around you? What is it about the world that seems unwhole, unhealed? Where there is also this perception that if it was somehow different, then you could finally relax. Then you could feel whole. And again, like the flu example, you could have the flu right now and you could say, well, if only I didn't have the flu, then I could feel whole. Then I can feel healed. Now, I want to ask you a question, and if you've followed my sharing for any length of time, you've heard me ask this question 1,000 times. Whatever it is that you think is unhealed, are you experiencing that something, or are you experiencing how you see it? Are you experiencing the flu, or are you experiencing how you see the flu? Are you experiencing the world, or are you experiencing how you see the world? Are you experiencing yourself, or are you experiencing how you see yourself? If you see yourself as unwhole, unhealed, how does that feel? And let's say there's the situation where everything seems to be going how you want it to be going, and you appear to be pretty awesome, and you see yourself with those eyes, that you're whole and complete, not missing anything. You're healed. How does that feel? This is interesting too, because the question here is, do you feel healed because everything seems to be working out? Or do you feel healed because you're allowing yourself to feel healed because it appears like life is doing what you want it to be doing? I think that's an interesting question. We can see this in relationship dynamics where you look at another human being and they're not in your way, right? They're not insulting you. They're not doing what you don't want. Does that make sense? They're not doing what you don't want. There must be a simpler way to say that. They're doing what you want. And so it looks like there's no threat. And so what you see is wholeness. And would you agree that that feels really good? Would you agree that it feels really good to see that everything's working for you? To see wholeness in this way? Likewise, would you agree that it feels shitty to see to see life as against you? To see yourself as missing something? To seeing other people as in the way? Would you agree that to see life that way creates a shitty feeling? Isn't it fascinating how these feelings that we have, shitty feelings and wonderful feelings, feelings of being healed, feelings of being unhealed, we're somewhat convinced that we feel that way because of what's happening in life. I feel unhealed because I have the flu. I feel unhealed because I'm not able to be how I think I'm supposed to be. And once I can be how I think I'm supposed to be, then I can be healed. And then when I'm in those experiences where it looks like I'm being how I'm supposed to be, then I'll see myself as healed. Naturally, this sets up a bit of a disaster. That disaster being that your inner sensation of wholeness and healing is intrinsically tied to something that you're separate from, which can only mean one thing. If you're going to feel how you want to feel, you need to get control over that something that you're separate from. And is this not the game the whole world is playing? Just notice the simplicity of this and see if you can recognize the obvious insanity. The insanity that says, if I'm going to experience wholeness, healing, I need life to do what I want. I need the flu to not be the flu. In order for me to experience wholeness, in order for me to experience healing, I'm required to be in opposition toward life, toward myself. And you know how we fight that battle? It's quite obvious in the battle we fight with ourselves. We say, "Dear self, I will love you if you be how I think you should be, so I can be healed. And because I see you as unhealed, I also see you as unlovable. So I'm not going to love you right now." And that type of dynamic in self-relating gets expressed in the way that we relate with others in the world. It's reflected in how we relate with something called the flu. We say, "Dear flu, fuck you." Get out of here. You're interrupting how I want things to be. Got things to do. And so we withhold love from the flu rather than saying, "Thank you for doing what you're doing," which is quite interesting because, as far as I'm concerned, having the flu would be evidence of healing. It's working. Seems like something to be grateful for. This insanity that is the fundamental misunderstanding about being human. And I keep coming back to this every time I open my mouth. The insanity being that my inner experience is determined by that which is outside of me. And I crave an inner experience that reflects wholeness, every human being. And so if I'm going to connect with what I crave, an inner experience of wholeness, then I must control. And how do we control? By withholding love. You know what's further interesting about that when looking at the relationship with the self is that the more you withhold love from yourself, the crazier you get. And then it creates a vicious cycle. That ultimately goes nowhere. And we miss out on an opportunity to truly enjoy ourselves as we are, even with our silly conditioning. even with our individual and unique quirks. Another example of this, which is probably quite popular, which magnifies the silly conditioning, is in some way the human being says, if I can look like that person in the magazine that's photoshopped, then I can feel healed, right? That's what's wrong with me. I don't look like that. That's something that's not a real something. And if only I could look like that, then I could feel whole. That's the insanity of healing in the world. And that's a loud example. And I wonder what softer and more subtle examples there might be discovered in your experience. What I'm pointing to here is a healing that doesn't have anything to do with changing anything in the world. It doesn't have anything to do with changing anything about you. I'm pointing to a healing in how you see the world, in how you see you. And I'm not suggesting that this healing is to see yourself in a better way. I'm not suggesting to have more positive thoughts about yourself. What I'm suggesting is to see the truth. See what's real. Because all those judgments you have about yourself and about other people and about the world, those judgments aren't seeing what's true. They're not seeing what's real. This is the healing of perception. To heal how you see, which is to see more of what's true. And as you see more of what's true, the natural byproduct of that is less judgment, less fear, less resistance, less distance. And in that scene, you recognize that you're not missing anything, which automatically means you're whole. It's so funny how this always comes back to just seeing the truth of life. I can't escape that every time I talk, no matter what the topic is. That's the answer, the truth. See what's real. And I've mentioned this on a previous episode and in 1,000 other times. like the example of the biblical verse, and I'm going to butcher this because I'm not well versed. As a pointer, it said, "Seek first the kingdom of God, and then all of these things will be given to you." You know what that's saying? Seek first what's true. And then everything else you crave is automatic. Because you're not experiencing the world, you're experiencing how you see the world. You're not experiencing yourself, you're experiencing how you see yourself. You're not separate from what you're experiencing. You're experiencing yourself. You're experiencing how you see. And the further your seeing is away from seeing the truth, the more it will hurt. Which is, the further your seeing is away from the truth of life, things will appear to be unhealed. And this pain of the unhealed is an alarm that invites you to see what's true. Does that make sense? If you see yourself as unhealed, it hurts. Why? Because it's not true. And so the pain says, be still, see what's true. And you see what's true, and you realize, oh, snap, I'm healed. It's okay to love myself again. I'm not broken. I can be kind to myself again. Because when I see myself as broken, I tend to act in broken ways. Go figure. When I see myself with violent eyes, I tend to act violently. Go figure. What comes out of you is simply an expression of how you are seeing. Why? So that you can see how you see. Why? So you can bring healing to how you see. That's amazing. My goodness. All of the internal dis-ease that we experience is only to experience a diseased way of seeing. And if we're not careful, that can send us down a spiraling path of self destruction.
where you're unkind to yourself, so you feel shitty. And you feel shitty, so you're more unkind to yourself, so you feel more shitty. And you feel so shitty that you start doing shitty things. And then you feel super shitty. And then you start being more shitty to yourself. So be gentle on yourself, dear one. There's a miracle happening. And you are this. Can you see it? This is holding space for love to be seen. I mentioned that it would be self-evident what that means. I think it's self-evident now, especially if you've listened this far. Because as we look through these delusions, these insane ways of seeing, what exposes itself is a profound love that's already there. So we are holding space, inviting ourselves to see the love that's been there the whole time. And as you see the love, you can't help but feel the love. And then you can't help but share the love. But it starts with seeing. Which starts with a deep listening presence, holding space. All right, let's transition. Q&R, questions and reflections. Linda, I see your question of, would you agree if only can hold us back as a possible excuse? I would agree. In fact, in some way, I'd say that's the only excuse. If only this, if only that. Looking into an imaginary future, imaginary past. If only has nothing to do with reality. If only has nothing to do with the life that's happening now. Alnisa says, I'm receiving this message. We must heal and be while amidst the chaos. Yes, but are you so sure it's chaos? Or is that simply a way to see it? Maybe it's a divine symphony that the mind cannot hear. And so we drop into presence so the heart can sing along. Right, because looking at the forest, you can say, this place is chaos. But if you step back and you look at the whole thing, my God, this is beautiful. Is it really chaos? How do you feel when you see this chaos? Are you experiencing that thing? Or are you experiencing what you've turned it into, this something called chaos? Is it really that? It's such an important question. What is it really? And there's no words for it. Again, to ask the question, what is it really, invites presence. It's not an invitation for the mind to think about it because the mind can't see what it really is. The mind can only see its imagination, which is what it's not. We must learn to see life from beyond the mind, see life from the heart. All right, real quick, if there's any other questions, I can touch on them, or we're going to jump into the guided meditation. Eva says, isn't it good to look at your different sides, the ones you like and the ones you want to change? Well, it can be seen as good. It could be seen as bad. Here's the thing, though. Of all the things that you think you want to change about yourself, are those all not a reflection of a love withheld from yourself? Right? Like all the things that you think you want to change. Would it be accurate to say that those things only appear from a self-violence? And so we can go down the path of trying to control and force yourself to be different. Or you can just go to the root of the issue and bring healing to how you see yourself, which will naturally and effortlessly create change without even trying. But there may be a play of trying, but you'll notice an ease to it, a naturalness. That's something to reflect on, though. The things that you don't like about yourself, the things that you think you want to change, where do those things come from? And how has it gone so far trying to force yourself into change? Trying to force yourself to be different, or are you just pretending to be something that you're not? Scott, I'm trying to read your question here, buddy. But it looks like you're typing in the dark. Are the ego's tendencies that limit our experience of truth and liberation trans? No clue. See if you can retype that for me. Are the ego's tendencies? Yeah, man, I'm sorry. I don't understand. transcendable. But you said, are the ego ice tendencies? Okay. You know, I did an episode earlier today called Transcend Human Suffering. Go out to get in. It was really good. Really, really good. I really invite you to find that. And if you can't find it, send me a message. But yes, in a way, it's totally transcendable, the ego's shenanigans. But it's not so much transcendable through doing, it's transcendable through seeing. And so often the human experience is so determined to do something that it's trying way too damn hard. This is actually very easy. However, in its ease and effortlessness, it requires the surrender of something that people don't want to surrender, which is what they think they want in the future. And so instead of surrendering and coming home to the truth of life, we keep fighting for how we want things. It's like we say to life, no, 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 thank you. I'm going to do this on my own because there's something that I really want in the future. And life is just like, well, if you saw what you already have, this could be a lot easier. If you saw that you weren't really missing anything, this could actually be fun. And so in order to transcend the shenanigans of the ego, we have to really see the ego for the ego. And the more you see it for what it is, it loses its importance. It loses its stranglehold. It becomes adorable and cute rather than something that's in the way, because it's not in the way at all, which is part of the illusion. We can think that there's something in the way. Oh, let's blame the ego. It's not the ego. More so, it's the idea that there's something in the way. There's not. All right. Glenn asks, why do some stories attach and others don't? Because of identity in those stories. You notice how your family can irritate you more than a stranger? Why is that? Because there's identity wrapped up in your story about family. The closer the story tells you who you think you are, the stronger the story's grip on you. The more you can see that you're not any of those stories, then it becomes more difficult for those stories to grab hold of you. Chris says, how to work on self when there is conflict within self. You know, Chris, as you ask that, what arises for me in this, and again, you know, you're typing a few words, so I don't really understand fully where you're coming from or how you're even asking the question, but what arises for me in that is that this isn't a how thing. I feel that how, as understandable as that is, and sincere as that might be, it's the wrong question. It's not a how. More accurately, maybe it's a why. like, to translate your question, why is it important to extend love to myself when I also hate myself? And the more we dive into that, the answer is going to be because it's the only real solution. And if someone doesn't see that it's true, then I say, okay, go try another way. And then come back and talk to me. Right? Like, put it this way, like for an alcoholic, it's not how do I stop drinking, it's why. Because this isn't working. That's a good start. When the why is deep enough, the deeper the why is connected to the truth, everything else is easy. Like, for example, waking up in the morning with a big enough why, it's super easy. Like, for example, if I have to catch a plane, it doesn't matter what time. It could be 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting up. Right? There's no like lying in bed and waiting. Should I get up? No, the why is I've got to catch this plane. Let's go. It's not how do I wake up and catch a plane? It's why. And as you examine your life and you see the pain and suffering that's created, and you start to understand that it's all coming from in you because of an innocent misunderstanding, then the why becomes a type of devotion where it's like, this is the most important thing. This touches my whole experience. This is the beginning and the end. And then when that's there, when that is seen, then it's done effectively. It's like you take on a new journey and you find guidance in that journey. Like the how presents itself, but it's not really the how, it's the why that leads you to the how, which is almost like the why leads you to an inner guidance of how. But again, it's like you could create a list of how, right? Like 3 steps, but those 3 steps are meaningless to anyone else who doesn't have the why. And so it's not really the how. It's not really the steps. It's a deep recognition that this is important. Honoring yourself is important. Seeing the truth of what you are is important. Seeing the truth of what you are and the truth of life, as far as I'm concerned, is the greatest gift of being human. It is the primary opportunity of being human. All right. I think we're going to do the meditation now. You're welcome, Sue. Glad to hear it, Scott. All right. Quick meditation. 5 minutes, 18 seconds. welcome to life. Will you hang out with me here for just a little bit? Let's take 3 deep breaths to really allow ourselves to drop into this moment. Let's breathe. Whatever struggle you might be experiencing, whatever pain seems left unresolved, whatever part of yourself feels unhealed, can we recognize how much of this is just mind noise? Thinking and thinking and thinking, wanting and wanting and wanting. Let's come back to life, where none of that is even happening. In this moment, during this meditation, I want to invite you to see all things with brand new eyes. Maybe the struggle isn't a struggle. Maybe the problem isn't really a problem. Maybe, just maybe, life knows exactly what it's doing. Maybe we're just scared. Scared of our imaginary monsters. Let's just start over, huh? We've made it this far, and nothing has gone how we thought it was going to go. But here we are. Let's open up to the journey and see what life wants to do. Thank you for meditating with me today. All right. Lovelies. Wow, we did it again. Another week with 4 episodes. I see donations coming in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is appreciated. Helps me do what I do. That feels good. I feel good. I think I'm done. It's almost my bedtime. Okay. I have 4 of these scheduled for next week. You can find out where those are. Tell your friends if you think this space is valuable. Glenn asked, so this is what good feels like? Maybe. Tell your friends. Join the community. It's free. Dive deep into the heart of life. Discover something beautiful within what you are, and then share that beauty with the world. Until next time. Bye-bye.